Nandana Brajajan Ranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajan Ranjana Jamayatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Brajajan Ranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajan Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vidagacharya Astatara Satasri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Our theme is Lord Ramachandra helping to remove obstacles on the path of bhakti. Who did we speak about last night? Did you hear the class last night? Starts with a T. Trishiras. Trishiras. Do you remember what they represent? Kara, Trishiras. Let's start with Dushan. Ravan had 3 brothers, and 2 of them were killed last night. Dushan, blasphemy, bad character. And Trishiras, the threefold miseries. Adhyatmika, Daivika, Adibhautika. And Kara represents what? Remember? False ego? Remember? Now do you remember? No. Big obstacle. very stubborn, false ego. And 14,000 Rakshasas. So before that happened, the scene just before that happened was Ramchandra's encounter with Shurpanakha, the one of Ravan's sisters, or the only sister of Ravan. And I want to just share a few things first before we go into Shurpanakha. Commonly, the obstacle that she represents is the obstacle of lust. Sometimes it's much less frequently described as misdirected intelligence, but lust drives misdirected intelligence, or drives intelligence in a misdirected way. And Shurpanakha was married at some point in time. When Ravan took over Lanka, there's some history. Lanka had been a kingdom provided to Kuvera by their father. Their father was a very celebrated Brahmana, and his father, Kuvera's father, had requested Vishwakarma to create a very special place for Kuvera. So that was Lanka. And when Ravan became this universal terrorist, he threatened his brother, Kuvera, "Give me your kingdom in Lanka or I'll kill you." So Kuvera was the elder brother. Kuvera went to their father. The father said, he's out of control. Just give him the kingdom. So he was given the kingdom. And shortly after he took over the kingdom, he was making some arrangement with Kara and Dushan, those two of his, because who was the third brother? Starts with a K. Slept a lot. Kumbhakarna. Right. So with Kara and Dushan, they made some arrangement for Shurpanakha's marriage. And the description goes like this. The person who they arranged a marriage with was a Danava. Danava is another name for the demoniac persons. A Danava lord named Vidyuj Dvija. And he was son of a great personality named Kalaka. So they're married. Shurpanakha and this son of Kalaka. Ravana is going on the warpath, traveling around the universe, beating up on people, killing people, stealing women, defiling women, doing the Ravana program. And one of the places he visited on his way back to Lanka was the very same kingdom, Kalaka's kingdom. And he was in a rage of battle, and in the course of the rage of the battle, he wasn't seeing who was who, and he killed his sister's husband. Whoops. So So when he came back to Lanka, Shurpanakha was weeping and saying, you're a terrible person, you're so cruel. So Ravan said he was sorry. In my thirst for battle, I killed your husband without knowing who he was. Ravana comforted her, intoxicated in battle and distracted. I was shooting arrows in my desire for victory, so I did not, lovely lady, distinguish in battle my friends from my enemies. And it is thus, sister, that I slew your husband in battle. Whatever beneficial thing might be accomplished at this time, I will do for you. You should stay with our brother Kara, who lives in lordly splendor with 14,000 immensely powerful Rakshasas. So that's how it came to that Shurpanakha was in Janastan, because Ravan killed her husband. So now she's husbandless, a widow, in the care of his very capable brother Kara. So we heard yesterday, Shurpanakha came to Kara saying this and that. He was, feeling empathy for his widowed sister and so forth. Now, one other thing before we begin this encounter between Ram and Shurpanakha. There's a description in two places. Well, I'm going to refer to one first. In Garga Samhita. In Garga Samhita, I'll read, but it describes that in her next life, she was Kubja. So I'll read because it's nicely written. In a previous age, when Krishna's expansion, Lord Ram lived with his brother Lakshmana and wife Sita in the forest of Panchavati. Ravana's sister Shurpanakha fell passionately in love with Ram. Habituated to demoniac acts, Shurpanakha expected to satisfy her lust by wedding Rama. But Rama, whose attractive features had captured the hearts of many women, had vowed to accept only one wife. He could not reciprocate Shurpanakha's love. Infuriated at being spurned, Shurpanakha tried to devour Sita. But Lakshmana seized her and cut off her nose and ears with his sharp-edged sword. Disfigured, roaring in pain, Shurpanakha returned to Lanka. She did some other things first, where she incited Ravana to steal Sita Devi. Shurpanakha extracted a revenge that proved to be the undoing of her brother. While the war raged between Ram with his army of monkeys and Ravana with his army of Rakshasas, unhappy Shurpanakha went to Pushkara Tirtha. There she performed severe austerities to have Ram as her husband. For 10,000 years, Shurpanakha stayed underwater and meditated on Lord Shiva. Finally, when Lord Shiva appeared and offered her a boon, Shurpanakha said, "Oh, great Lord, O Mahadev, you are so dear to the great sages and have power to bestow any benediction. Please make Sri Ram my husband." Garga Samhita. Lord Shiva, knowing the future, smiled and said, this is not going to be possible this lifetime. Be patient. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, you will appear in Mathura city. At that time, your desire will be fulfilled. Of this there is no doubt. By the blessing of Lord Shiva, Shurpanakha became a girl named Kubja, Lord Krishna's beloved. Now there's other scripture references to say other things about Kubja, but that's okay. The heart of Kubja bore the desire of Shurpanakha to enjoy herself with Rama. A desire so selfish that this desire was willing to sacrifice anything, Rama's wife, Rama's happiness, even Shurpanakha's own brother Ravana, indeed the entire Rakshasa dynasty, to achieve her selfish goal. The nature of demoniac mentality, and even specifically Rakshasa mentality, is once an idea grips the mind of that person, they're very focused. They're very tenacious and they don't hear anything. Like they're, Rakshasa Samadhi. They don't budge from that position. So although she was face to face with the personality of Godhead, she's so covered in consciousness. Her name, Shurpanakha, has to do with her fingernails. And in the West, I never heard this term before, at least, a winnowing basket. You know what a winnowing basket is? Have you heard of that term before? It's used in agriculture. You take a winnowing basket and the grain stays in the basket and the chaff falls through the winnowing basket. So her name means nails like a winnowing basket. And so the indication is when she had, so the physical manifestation is a feature of the subtle desire and subtle senses. So she wanted to grab things with her senses and be the enjoyer. So she had a name like that. Apparently she had nails like that too. So the scene opens. Panchavati. Lakshman has built a cottage according to the direction of Ram. They went to Panchavati at the indication of Agastya, and they were very pleased with this situation there. And things were going on very nicely until Shurpanakha showed up. They did their morning rituals in the nearby river, and Ram and Sita were then seated inside the cottage, discussing various topics with Lakshmana. And while Ram was seated, absorbed in conversation, a certain Rakshasi arrived in the area by chance. Now, the phrase that's used in Valmiki Ramayana, by chance, is yadrichchaya. And it's a nice word. Prabhupada translates it often as somehow or other. Like there's no apparent cause. Somehow or other something happened. Like the mercy of a devotee is yadrichchaya, causeless mercy. And the commentators say There's only two places in Valmiki Ramayana he used that Yadrichjaya phrase. And one was in relation to Kaikeyi adopting a certain mentality, and here it's Shurpanakha doing what she did. So the indication is Ram, within the heart of these two personalities, moved their hearts in the way that their hearts moved to help him fulfill his purposes. So Kaikeyi did what Kaikeyi did because Super Soul influenced her to do what she did. Because the life in Ayodhya was so nice, the purpose of Ram's appearing in this world would not be fulfilled. So he was sent to the forest so he could fulfill his purpose of appearing in this world. And the instrument for that was Kaikeyi. So that was to go meet with the sages, and now comes killing Ravan. So this was that the Rich Jaya message was by chance she arrived in the area. And gives a description of Ram's form, and in contrast, Shurpanakha's form. He is young, long arms, reach down to his knees, chest as broad as a lion, very handsome, looking as if he's a denizen of the heavenly planets, long-shaped eyes like lotus petals, face shining and radiant, very extremely pleasant in appearance. His walking is compared to the gait of an elephant. He had matted hair tied in a knot at the top of his head, appearing as if aesthetic, but at the same time very, very powerful like a monarch. In Valmiki Ramayana, it doesn't say his complexion is greenish, it says like a blue lotus flower. Complexion as effulgent as Cupid. And seeing this exquisite form, Ram's form, that prompted Shurpanakha's lust. So in contrast to Ram's figure, here's hers. The Rakshasi was ugly and pot-bellied. She had hideous eyes and hair the color of copper. She was disproportionate, frightening voice, cruel, old, spoke deceptively, and very misbehaved and unsightly. So she swiftly comes before Ram and says, wearing matted hair and dressed in the garb and of an ascetic, accompanied by your wife, carrying a bow and arrows, how have you come to this region, frequented by the Rakshasas? What is the reason for your visit? Please tell me the truth. And one of the characteristics of Ram is he would always speak the truth. And he would speak in a very straightforward manner. And so that's what he did. There was a great king named Dasarath. And he had two sons, Ram and Lakshman, were here at his behest to come to the forest for some time. And this is my good wife named Sita. And she's the princess of the Vaideha dynasty. And by my father's request, I've come. I'm fulfilling the obligation he gave to me and upholding righteousness. So now you please say, who are you? Who is your husband? What's your name? Who is your father? By the way, you are a most enthralling personality, You must be a demoness. So he was speaking in some sense in flattering terms and not otherwise. But some versions other than Valmiki Ramayan have a little section just before she arrives. And that is that Jatayu had just taken permission from Ram to go visit his relatives. Because only in Jatayu's presence could somebody like her approach. If Jatayu was around, she wouldn't even have come near. So Shurpanakha gets right down to business. Listen, O Ram, I shall tell you the truth. I am a Rakshasi named Shurpanakha, and I can assume any form at will. Roaming this forest alone, I strike fear in the hearts of everyone. Then she says Ravana is her brother, the son of valiant Vishrava, another powerful brother, Kumbhakarna, who sleeps too much. My brother Vibhishana, however, is a pious soul and does not act like a Rakshasa. She's giving like her family. I also have two other brothers, well known for their prowess, Kar and Dushan. I surpass all of them. Oh, Ram, from the first time I saw you, I have wholeheartedly desired you, the best of men, as my husband. She doesn't waste any time. I possess mighty powers and can wander at will due to my strength. Be my husband forever. What good is Sita to you, being misshapen and ugly? She is not fit for you. I alone am a suitable match for you. Be my wife. I shall devour this deformed, unchaste, hideous human woman with a sunken belly, along with your brother of yours. Then, looking at the different mountain peaks and forests, you will wander through the Dandak forest with me as your lover. Woo, woo, woo. Ram chuckles. Hearing this, Ram laughed heartily and, being expert in speaking, replied to the Rakshasi, whose eyes were red due to intoxication. So he spoke in joking way. Oh, lady, I'm already married. Here's my dear wife. For ladies like you, to live with a co-wife is most miserable. But over there is my younger brother, Lakshmana, who is well-behaved, good-looking, glorious, valiant, and living without his wife. He possesses unique qualities as young, a pleasing appearance. So he's not saying he's not married, just saying he's living without his wife. As understood by Shurpanakha, he is suitable to be the husband of one with a beautiful body like yours. O woman of large eyes and fine hips, my brother is fit for you. You will, with him, shine like the radiant sun on Mount Meru. You will enjoy yourself without a co-wife. You may approach him. So the Rakshasi, compelled by lust and not very intelligent, she just switched from Ram to Lakshmana and made the same pitch to Lakshmana. With my lovely complexion, I shall be a suitable wife for you, as you do not have as you do have such a handsome form, you will happily wander throughout the entire Dundak forest with me. So she's just like undirected lust. Lakshmana smiled and made a joke. And she didn't get the joke. Why do you wish to be a slave woman to marry me, who myself am a slave? I am in fact subservient to my noble brother. That commentary also says, in addition to this reference that I earlier read, Brahma Vivarta Purana says the same thing. That is, Shurparnaka became Kubja. So Lakshman is saying that she can satisfy her desires with Ram, but sure enough, that's what happened later. So commentary is saying, one of the primary functions of Lakshmana is Guru, just like Lord Nityananda is the original Guru, or Balaram is the original Guru, and Lakshmana is also performing this function of Guru. So he's giving, not saying directly, wait till next yuga, but he will be able to satisfy your desire. Jokingly, Lakshmana said, "Oh, exquisite woman with fair complexion, which wise man would abandon this most excellent form of yours and fix his love upon a human woman?" She didn't get it. She took it the wrong way. So she now turns her attention back to Ram, believing what he said to be true. And deluded by lust, she again came directly before Ram, who was still sitting inside thatched hut with Sita, clinging to this deformed, unchaste, hideous, sunken-bellied old wife. You do not give me much importance. Now I shall devour this woman while you're watching. Having rid myself of this co-wife, I shall wander with you at ease. So again, this message that in general lust bewilders people, and she's in this Rakshasi mood where she can't see anything clearly. So she gets her mind fixed on something, and anything can be sacrificed to fulfill that desire. So she started rushing towards Sita. Ram raised his voice so loud, she stopped. Just the power of his voice. And Ram then turned to Lakshman. Said, don't tell jokes to Rakshasis, they don't get it. Oh, tiger among men, you should disfigure this repulsive, impious, wanton, and big-bellied Rakshasi. Lakshman was already angry. All he needed was that word from Ram, and so immediately picked up his sword, cut off her nose, cut off her ears, and she started screaming, rushing off into the forest, bloodied, drenched in blood, screaming and howling, going back on the same path from which she came. And she went straight to Kara. And we heard yesterday what she said to Kara. and he fell for it. So then yesterday evening, it was Kara, Dushan, and Trishiras are all killed. The 14,000 Rakshasas are killed. We didn't hear one person, well, two persons were spared. Shurpanakha was spared because she was a woman. And one other person was spared because he ran, and Ram doesn't kill from behind. So who was the one who escaped and went and informed Ravan? What happened? Starts with an A. Akampana, right? Yeah. So Akampana informs Ravan. Ravan gets very perturbed. Akampana suggests, I have a solution. Take Sita away from Ram, and Ram will be just, weakened. Then you can defeat him. So Ravan likes the idea. Ravan goes to Maricha. Maricha says, "Oh, don't do that." So he goes back to Lanka, and Shurpanakha makes her way to Lanka. So that's where we're opening. And along with being very lusty, she's totally selfish and totally duplicitous and totally manipulative, and she's good at it. Although her features are hideous. Seeing his sister, Shurpanakha, fallen down, disfigured, and soaked in blood, the Rakshasa, Kar, was burning with anger and asked, not Kara, Ravan, "Get up and tell me how this happened to you. Tell me exactly who mutilated you in this way. Who has sat in front of an offenseless and venomous black snake and then hit it on the nose with the tip of his finger for amusement? He who has committed this heinous deed has now drunken poison, and because of delusion is unaware that he has fastened the noose of death around his own neck." These Kshatriya people can speak really strongly. A little bit about Ravana's name. And when he was born, his name by birth wasn't Ravana. His name by birth was Dashagriva. But he got the name Ravan from Lord Shiva because he had done austerities and got benedictions and so on and so on. So he went to Mount Kailash, not to pay his respects to Lord Shiva, but to, test his power against Lord Shiva's power. So when he went there, Nandi wouldn't let him enter. So he wanted to show Nandi who's who. And so he started to lift Mount Kailash. And Parvati became disturbed. "What's that?" And Shiva said, "Don't worry. It's just this puny Ravan. So I'll just press my toe on the Mount Kailash." And the whole of Mount Kailash crushed his 20 arms. 20 arms. He had 10 heads and 20 arms. And it went on for 1,000 years. And it was paining him a lot. Must have gotten hungry. So his whole body just became very thin and emaciated, and the veins of his body were bulging. So he was given this advice: you were given musical training when you're little, just use the bulging veins and use it as a musical instrument and sing songs in praise of Lord Shiva. So that's what he did. Ravana sang a song for the pleasure of Lord Shiva, a rhythmical eulogy. Shiva was pleased. He released Ravan from that danger that he was in and blessed him by the name Ravana. Ravana comes from the Sanskrit dhatu, a root word, ru. Ru means to make noise or to weep. So sometimes he was known as the one who makes other people weep, but he was able to, he had musical skills too. So he was weeping and crying. So much pain caused by Lord Shiva. Shurpanakha had seen all this devastation of the Janastan warriors, and bellowing loudly like a turbulent storm cloud, she described in details what happened, what Ram did. She returned to Lanka to be under Ravana's protection. When she approached, Ravana was by his Pushpaka Vimana and in an assembly of his ministers. He was unconquerable in battle. He looked fierce like death with a gaping mouth. His body bore wounds inflicted by thunderbolts during battles between demons and demigods. His chest was marked with gouges caused by the tusks of Lord Indra's elephant, Airavata. He was struck hundreds of times by a weapon that was given by Vishwamitra to Ram, but others had that weapon before. And so many others. So he was a war-weary hero amongst the Rakshasas. 20 arms, 10 heads, all kinds of attractive paraphernalia, broad chest, and all characteristics of a king. His complexion was deep blue. With all his limbs. In the past, he had stirred up the entire ocean. He was quick to act. He hurled mountain peaks at the demigods and crushed them. He violated women. He was expert in the use of celestial weapons, and he was always disrupting sacrificial performances. So commentary says, unlike Kara and Dushan, who just they liked killing and eating sages, Ravan was interested in disrupting sacrifices. And he was interested in disrupting sacrifices for two reasons. He didn't want the persons who were doing the sacrifice to get powers or benediction from demigods that might bring a problem to him. So he stopped sacrifices. But any sacrifice to him, that was okay. But most people were doing the other kind. Here's some descriptions of his mercilessness. In one of his tours, he visited the realm of the Nagas. The Nagas live in the lower regions, but it's like very, very opulent. Bhogavati, that's the capital city. And while there, he defeated the rulers. Vasuki, Takshaka. He abducted Takshaka's wife. He went to Kailash where he conquered Kuvera. There he confiscated Kuvera's Pushpaka Vimana. He destroyed Kuvera's celestial forest called Chitraratha, very celebrated place. He went to Lord Indra's abode and destroyed the Nandana gardens. He stood as tall as a mountain peak, and with his outstretched arms, he could block the newly risen sun and moon. Very powerful. So his austerities were very severe. This is why Brahma gave him benediction, and the one benediction he didn't ask for was being killed by a human, so that's where Ram appeared as a human. He was uncivil, merciless, engaged in activities that were detrimental to living beings in general. So she knew how powerful, Shurpanakha knew how powerful her brother was. But she took liberties because of sister, because he had killed her husband. So she started speaking insultingly of him. Here's her words. Pretty outrageous. Being deluded and attached to uncontrolled sense gratification, you do not see the terrible danger that has arisen. People shun at a distance a king who does not engage spies, making himself inaccessible to the public and lacks self-reliance. She's instructing him on the duties of a king, saying, "You get an F. You failed the exam." So she was speaking about not knowing that Ram had entered the Dandak forest and not knowing that Ram had killed. So she has to come and tell him all these things because you're not a good king. You don't have a spy network all over the place, so you can get this information. And whatever people you do have as spies, they're incompetent. It's taking me to come and tell you, so you should listen to me. That's part of what she's doing here. Well-informed and far-sighted kings who do not reclaim lost territory are considered unsuccessful, like mountains sunken beneath the sea. Having instigated contention with gods, how do you expect to remain king without spies? Being as fickle as you are quite childish and brainless. Oh, Rakshasa, you do not know what you should know, and therefore, how will you be able to retain your position as king? Monarchs are those who are able to see everything going on in a distant place by means of spies. 14,000 Rakshasas of cruel deeds, including Karan Dushan, have been slaughtered by Ram single-handedly. Ram, who never tired by action, has offered the sages protection, secured the Dandak forest, and devastated Janastan. You, however, are lusty, deluded, and dependent on unqualified persons. Thus you are unaware of the danger that has arisen in your own kingdom. No one will run to the assistance of a king who is harsh, miserly, careless, proud, and devious. Even your own people will kill a king in difficulty when he is too puffed up, unacceptable, and conceited. Whew. Ravana thought a long time. He who stood higher than all others in power, pride, and strength heard her out as she painted his defects in lurid colors. Long and earnestly did he take counsel with himself. On one side was Maricha, because he'd already visited Maricha, who was dead against his fighting with Ram. And on the other side was his sister, who hotly incited him to battle. Although she was speaking very harshly, he didn't rebuke her. Especially she was speaking in the midst of his own ministers. So he spoke as follows. Who is this Ram? What is his strength? What does he look like? How great is his prowess? And Why has he entered the Dandak forest, which is so impassable? What weapons does Ram have with which he killed in combat the Rakshasas, including Kara, Dushan, and Trishira? So Shurparnika goes through this long explanation in detail, his appearance, his power, his weapons, everything. She speaks in a manner very similar to Maricha. Like, look out. He's not an ordinary person. Then, clever Shurpanakha started describing Sita. So he knew what would happen. And she knows her man. So she lied about her activities and her intentions. She's manipulative. She's a Rakshasi. As I was attempting to bring that lovely woman to you so that she could be your wife, I was deformed by the cruel Lakshmana. Let my advice be carried out without hesitation, recognizing your own strength and the weakness of these humans. Forcibly abduct Sita as your wife. Having heard about the massacre of the night stalkers of Janastan by the arrows of Ram, including Kara and Dushan, you should immediately undertake your duty. So, she's doing something similar to Kaikeyi. She's a game-changing person. Everything was going great in Ayodhya until Kaikeyi did what Kaikeyi did. Ram's presence in the Dandak forest is fine until Shurparnakha did what she did with Karan Dushan, and next comes Ravan and the rest of the Rakshasas. First, Shurparnakha insults Ravan, saying he has uncontrolled senses, lusty desires, all of which is going to lead him to ruination. You're not good at using spies. You don't know what's going on. You have to listen to me because I know what's going on. Next, she's just manipulative. She lied about her intentions, knowing that Ravana is lusty, and she instigated Ravana to abduct Sita to satisfy her lusty desires. Saying is to help satisfy his lusty desires. Very, very tricky lady. And totally self-centered. She wants revenge on those that insulted her, and she wants to take revenge on Ravana, who killed her husband. But she doesn't say that. In reality, she's not desiring the welfare of her brother. Rather, she is trying to instigate the pride and lust of Ravana to fulfill her own two vengeful desires. She's an important figure in Ramayana. She's like her intelligence is totally wicked. And she knows how to manipulate people. She's really good at it. And at the same time, because she's the sister, she can get away with saying these atrocious things. Now, she's better at it than even Vibhishan, who is her brother, Ravan's brother. Rava didn't say such harsh, Vibhishan didn't say such harsh things, not the same way she did. But she got away with it. She's like a powerful personality. Very capable personality. totally driven by lust. And intelligence that's the servant of her lust. At anyone else's expense, doesn't matter, satisfy the lust. So we heard what happened during the battle. She went off to do some austerities to get Ram. She says, get Ram as my husband at any cost, by any means, by hook or by crook. Now somehow, because of that attraction to have Ram as her husband, she became transformed. Now she still had lust, but she became transformed into one who got Krishna's mercy. She became purified by that fixed concentration. Even the motivation wasn't a good one, far from it. But the Supreme Lord is all pure, all powerful. So let's see if there's some discussion. Hare
Krishna Maharaj. A couple of questions I have. One is Surpanaka having the lusty desire for Rama. When the desire itself is okay, I think the desire is not bad, but the means she tried to achieve the desire by adoring, Sita and the other means, that is not good. Is that understanding correct?
Well, it's not correct because, it ended up bringing purification to her, but it was all about her senses. It wasn't about the senses of the Supreme. It was about her senses. So it's not just the way she went about it, being ready to attack Sita and so forth. Just like uncontrolled senses. So that's not okay.
So why did Rama or Lakshmana did not kill her? Being
she's a woman.
He killed the Tataki. Right?
But that's because Vishwamitra said to. And he was under the order of his father to do whatever Vishwamitra said. Now Vishwamitra gave his explanation. Although she's in a woman's body, what she's doing is punishable by death. So don't fear that you're violating Dharma. She's a murderess. She doesn't fall. And Gate said there's many examples where women were given death penalty because of that kind of conduct. So it's in principle and it's historical, and don't hesitate.
One other question, Maharaj. Compared to Lord Krishna's pastimes, Rama's pastimes are, try to act more like a perfect human being.
Yes.
Perfect king and all. But still, it's not very easy to understand. Like the way, last couple of days we were hearing. Some of the things that we were, very difficult to understand.
Yes, they're difficult.
But most of his activities are like a perfect human being.
Yeah.
But still, lot of scope for people to misinterpret it or
yes.
give like different kind of meanings.
This question came up earlier. Was it today? Recently during this visit. Yes, people can criticize when the Supreme Lord displays his divinity. But part of the purpose, the example I gave is like a filter. You pass something through a filter and, something gets stuck on the filter. But what's on the other side is something unfiltered. Is without that sediment or the obstacle or stuff. So persons with faith can get on the other side of, oh, that looked like that looks bad, or it's contradictory behavior or something. But hearing the explanation of great souls, then it's okay, that makes sense. So yes, it's possible for people to misunderstand and make criticism and go away.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So sometimes our mind also acts like a demon.
Hmm?
So at that time, how to control or how to overcome that?
Well, long term is purified consciousness, and short term is you tolerate, don't identify with, that is, that the thought or the feeling connected with the thought, that's not me. I'm the observer, and there's the thought and the feeling connected, but that's not me. So detachment through knowledge, tolerate when the demoniac thought or bad thought or whatever comes into the mind, and then redirect your attention towards something that is pure instead of the opposite. That's the give the mind better engagement of something, consciously and purposefully, just like you might do with a child. Child might be doing something that's hurtful for them, and if you just say no, don't do that, then when you turn around again, there they are doing it again. So higher engagement for the mind. And that purifies and lifts one beyond, above and beyond lower nature. And it's doing that sustained over a period of time, and purification results. Chaita Darpana Marjanam. And that demoniac or negative behavior of the mind or thought in the mind subsides.
This is a question from Sri Hari. Was Ravana born with 10 heads, or did he get them out of some boon? Is there any meaning to his 10 heads?
I read something about the first part of the question, but I can't remember the answer. I don't think he was, but I don't remember. Anybody here remember? Anybody online remember? Send your message in if you can remember. You remember?
It said that first Ravana's parents was born a 10-headed figure that was very ugly, I think.
Yeah. So he was born like that. Okay.
There are 3 questions from Bhakti Priya Mataji. Number 1, what is the lesson we can learn as devotees in the process of developing God brother, God sister relationships from Ramayana?
What's the lesson that we can learn by developing proper relationships? Yeah.
From Ramayana.
I don't know how to answer that from Ramayana. I know the benefits that can come to one for developing when one develops such relationships. Now, the assumption is this is with elevated souls, yes? That's the assumption? No?
N- what I understand from the question, Guru Maharaj, is the process of developing a healthy God brother, God sister relationships. What is the lesson that we can learn? How do we develop?
I don't understand the question.
Like she wants to have improved relationships with God brothers and God sisters, but what lessons can I take from Ramayana? Like that.
That's the question? Well, one thing that's very clear is something we discussed this morning. You know, in Ramayana, we have examples of cultured people, and here's how cultured people act in wholesome relationships. So we have difficulty in relationships in part because we're not so cultured, and others may also be not so cultured, and so there's unnecessary clash due to our conditioned nature meeting another conditioned nature and mutual, conflict. So seeing from Ramayana, seeing here's the standard, here's the character of someone that doesn't have the contamination that I and those around me have. So let me, by hearing and striving and emulating, let me develop character like this and character like that and so forth. So that's, I think, an important dimension of developing God brother to God sister, God brother to God brother, devotee relationships. Yeah.
The next question is there any example regarding faithfulness towards husband and wife?
Faithfulness towards husband and wife.
Or vice versa, for us to develop the trust.
That's another question I don't understand. I mean, the way that it's worded, I don't understand. Could you say it in some other way? Do you understand what the question is?
Looks like is it she want to develop the want to develop how to develop the trust.
I'm in a marriage and I want to develop a trusting relationship with my spouse. What do I do next? That's the question?
Any example? But is there any example?
From Ramayana specifically.
She doesn't say Ramayana, but she's just any example to look up to have in a trusty relationship between the spouse and husband and vice versa. That's
Well, gosh, example to look up to. Hopefully there's, in the community, there's good relationships between husband and wife, and you learn from them by good example. One of the keys about a building trust in a relationship is start from your side, being trustworthy, then it invites trust. And being consistently trustworthy regardless of what other people do, your spouse or anybody else. Consistently be trustworthy, and that garners trust, and it strengthens a trusting relationship.
I think it looks like she's also asking from the Ramayana perspective, like the previous question and this one. What is the example I can look up to from the Ramayana?
Sita and Ram.
There's the third part to the question. how to cope if one is suffering from loss of trust and constantly doubts. Somebody else has this challenge of lack of unable to place trust and constantly doubt us, and how do I deal with that?
Someone is doubting this individual, or this individual is doubting everybody.
Someone is doubting this individual.
And then how to establish, get release from that mistrust towards them. The answer is just be trustworthy and can be consistently trustworthy. And what does trustworthy mean? There's different parameters for being trustworthy. But start with what Rams does. Uphold your word. You say something and you do it. That's a good starting point. Abide by truth. That's trustworthy character, number one.
This is a question from Veda and Vaishnav. They're saying they forgot the connection how Ravana and Kuvera are brothers.
They had the same father. Now, they had different mothers, but the same father. Ravana's mother was a Daitya dynasty daughter. Good. And Kuvera's mother was an elevated mother. So stepbrothers, but brothers, different mothers, same father.
Kalpataru Mataji's question. Manipulators can inhibit co-workers from doing their best work. And
Manipulators can prevent co-workers from doing their best work.
And create a toxic and self-serving culture. It's very demoralizing at times. Can you please explain how to deal with this situation?
Go to another office. I mean, it depends on how pervasive that mood is. But if it's pervasive and the person's, unstoppable, go to another place. I wouldn't stay in that place. I mean, one may not see other options, so then don't necessarily impulsively jump, but make arrangements so you don't have to stay in that situation. I mean, there are other options, but that if the other options fail, don't stay in a toxic atmosphere. Sometimes those things happen, and the devotee tolerates, and Krishna makes some arrangement. That person gets switched out to some other place to toxify another place, and then the atmosphere gets cleared up. That sometimes happens. It depends on the extreme nature of the person, the compulsive nature, the overbearing nature of the person. Yeah.
This is Chaitanya Rasa Prabhu. The way Shurpanaka dealt with Ravana in terms of rebuke, was it just lust, or was it something like Kaikeyi playing an important role in the whole Ramayana Leela?
No, they both are playing an important role, but it's not just playing an important role. I mentioned already, she's a manipulator. And she knows how to do it very well. She's really good at being a manipulator. So she says the right thing and gets away with it, and says the next right thing, gets away with it, to get what she wants. Very manipulative. And she has a relationship with Ravana where she can do it. In other words, he doesn't respond to Shurpanakha the way he responded to Vibhishan. She's just an empowered person. Yeah, arrangements made by the personality of Godhead for her to do that, yes. But she's a smart and crooked lady. Okay. Yeah, good.
So my question, Maharaj, when we start any activity, the difference between, there will be some expectations.
When we start an activity, there's a difference of expectation.
No. So when we start an activity, there could be an expectation.
There could be an expectation, yeah.
So, and also, the vision or planning, right? What we want to do it, right? How we want to do that service, or how do we want to do that? So what is the difference between this expectation and then the planning? Planning, in the beginning, at least in the beginning phase, it looks like same. Maybe once we start the activity, there may be a lot of difference that we can see, but in the beginning, will there be any difference?
Is there a difference between planning and
Expectation.
Well, yes. Expectation carries with it a sense of ownership of the outcome, the ownership of the fruit of the activity. A plan is just the activity. An expectation is being the enjoyer of the fruit of that activity. It has that dimension or aspect. So let's say in contrast, supposing one does something, and it can be very detailed something, but there's no expectation. That is, whatever so no expectation means whatever may come from this, it's not meant for my enjoyment. Whatever may come from this, and maybe this, and maybe that, and maybe whatever it is, it's meant. The activity is meant, and the fruit of the activity is meant as an offering unto Krishna. So you can say the expectation is I want to please Krishna, and then there's a plan. That the Krishna conscious, no expectation. But suppose whether there's expectation or no expectation, a plan is like when it's time to leave, I'm going to walk over and get my shoes, put my shoes on my feet, and go out in the hall, go to the car, and so forth. So that's a plan. And I guess you could say the expectations are going to reach home, but it's just the term expectation carries with it a connotation that it's meant for my enjoyment. Let's say book distribution. We go on book distribution. We want to distribute books. We have a plan of how we want to distribute books, but expectation is for my enjoyment. And we let go of that, and we're just for Krishna's enjoyment. With a plan. How we're going to go to distribute books today. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at your son. He's smiling. Anything at all you wanted to discuss? Let me ask you this. Out of what you heard today, what's the part that sticks in your mind the most, that attracts you, or you're going to remember?
It's that even though Shurpanakha spoke harshly, Ravana didn't rebuke her as much as he did to Vibhishan.
Yeah. Yes, what she said was like, whoa. And to say it to Ravana? Ooh. But he took it. He was contemplating, she knows my weaknesses. But who's going to, demons don't consider they have weaknesses, even if they have weaknesses. So, good capacity to counsel her brother, but misdirection. Altogether, total misdirection. How about you? What did you hear today?
I hear like when I hear like when Surpanaka is being cut his nose.
I didn't get it. Mom, can you repeat?
No, he's saying like Lakshman cut Surpanakha nose
Yeah?
and ears.
You thought that was cool? Okay.